Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Women in Clinical Research, a day in data management. And thank you so much for joining us today with Clinical Trials Day. We are so excited to talk about data management and for you guys to join us. And so I am the CEO and founder of Black Women in Clinical Research. The mission is to educate, empower, support, and help Black women thrive in the clinical research industry. Today, we have awesome speakers that have a lot of knowledge in the clinical research industry, specifically with data management. And I have my co-hosts, Andrika Thomas, Rashida Hall. And so we are just going to jump in and we're going to have the speakers go ahead and introduce themselves. So we can start with Michelle.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, guys. My name is Michelle Taylor Scott. I'm the head of data management at Health Decisions, which is one of your smaller CROs in Durham, North Carolina. I've been in the industry for about 17 years. Prior to that, I was a financial auditor for Ernst & Young. So I had no knowledge of clinical research when I came into the field, and just delighted to be able to maybe share some things about data management that you didn't know today.
Thank you, Michelle. Cherie.
Hello, hi, I'm Cherie Garwood. I've been in clinical research for about 14 years now. I was a data technician at Biomedical Systems, which was a core lab, considered a vendor. I did that Data Tech 1, 2 for about 9 years. Then I reached out to a friend in data management, and she passed my resume on to the manager. Within 2 weeks, I had an interview and I was hired as a data manager. Did that for 2 years. Then we were acquired by ERT, a data technology company, which I work for now as a data manager. And I'm going on my 5th year in data management altogether. I basically, most of my experience is on-job experience. So for those that are out there that may not have school with job experience, I'm testament to that you can still break into this industry with just on-job experience and some college, which is what I have. I work mostly with cardiac, respiratory, and imaging data. Prior to the clinical research industry, I worked as a unit secretary in a high-risk cardiology unit. So I had a cardiology background already. So, and that's what I have. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Christy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christy Williams, and I am fairly new to data management. And so I'm excited to join the panel tonight to kind of, again, just give testament of how you can successfully transition into data management from various career paths. I actually come to clinical research by way of dentistry. I am a registered dental hygienist. And prior to that, I was in an academic institution where I was afforded the opportunity to be able to kind of delve or basically get thrown into data management. And so from that point, I've had a passion and a love for it. And so I just sought ways, once I transitioned over to a CRO, sought ways in which to forge my own path. And here I am, so willing to discuss and talk to everyone about how you can make data management your own.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for that introduction. So we're going to go ahead and start with the question. And so what exactly is data management in the clinical research industry? Michelle?
I had to find the unmute button.
No worries.
So data management is part of a larger group called biometrics. We're the back end services. So although, we're not as client facing as the clinical team, we're the guys who make sure that all of the data points that are needed for the end analysis are captured on the case report forms and make sure that that data is clean, because that's the data that's going to go into the clinical study report that's going to be sent to the FDA, which could determine if the study is put on the open market or not.
Okay, thank you. Any of the other ladies like to chime in what they believe data management is to them?
I was just gonna make it simple. I feel like data management, in the tree analogy, we're the forest. Basically, we're the final piece. Once we get all the data, obviously we turn it over from a vendor level. We turn it over to the CRO sponsor, and then the sponsor turns it over to the FDA. So I just feel like we're the final piece.
I agree. I just think, it's a very important piece because, it's contingent upon whether or not your data is valid. You're proving the validity of a study. And so if you have trashy data, as it were, you have all these sponsors spending millions and billions of dollars. And so it's very important to have that as clean as possible and as valid as possible, so that they can then go on to promote their brand, their drug, their whatever, their device. So we are a very important piece to that.
Definitely sounds like data management, like you said, is a very important in the clinical research industry. And so let's talk about the difference in responsibilities between the data management levels, entry level versus mid-level versus a lead data management. Anyone?
So it really varies from company to company, because you could be, like a clinical data associate, which is what I think of as entry level, and you could only be working on, something like queries or vendor reconciliation at that level. But other companies, you don't have that CDA, you go straight into clinical data manager. So those responsibilities could entail, being on the sponsor calls, because you could be assigned as a lead to a study, just depending on your years of experience or how well you adapt to the different tasks. Of course, you always have the basic data cleaning in any of the roles that you have. So you have, your queries, your reconciliation, your SAE reconciliation. There used to be a lot of data entry, and that's what the clinical data associates, the data, they used to be more data entry, but that's not there anymore. Now the sites are doing their data entry. For some sites, like some research sites, you still do have people who are doing data entry at the sites, but then you get into your more senior people. So those are the people who are responsible for coordinating the task of the mid and the lower level data management staff. Those are the people that you would send out to your bid defense meetings. So those are like sales meetings where you're trying to convince a sponsor to give you the business. So that person is somebody who's really going to have to put their face on and sell the data management services. That person is also responsible for making sure that the budget is on task. So for each budget, you have a certain number of hours for each task. So that lead is making sure that those tasks are within that number of hours that are there. And if there's an overage, then that person is like, well, why are we over? And they investigate, why instead of 40 hours, it took 66. Is it something wrong with the process? Is it something wrong with the individual? Is it a training gap? That person may have a little bit more responsibility. And then you get into your managerial staff. So, you have managers that manage your data associates, or managers that manage your project managers of data management. I left that level out. So your project management level of data managers, they're dealing with the financials from a different perspective. They're the ones that are presenting the financials at the monthly financial meetings. They're the ones who are, oh, this is out of scope. We need to have a change order, which is something that you issue to the sponsor if you're running out of hours or something. So that person also does a lot of bid defense meetings. That person would also have input on processes. Your managers would be managing that particular set of staff. So they would manage your clinical data associates and your clinical data managers. And then you'd have your director who would manage the managers. And then you have the department head who oversees everything and has to have a finger in every little piece, but is really managing the directors and the managers directly and making sure that they're not alienating anybody and nobody's running from the building with their hair on fire because somebody was nasty to them.
So, Cherie, thank you, Michelle. I have like a good understanding now of it.
So I'll just add to what Michelle basically said, more so from a vendor level. So from a vendor level, there's tends to be a little bit more entry level as far as the data coordination group. We have a data acquisition group. Um, we have a archive study coordinator who handles basically the study closeout, archival and stuff. Data coordination, kind of like Michelle said, they handle queries and they deal a lot with the sites and they do some data entry as well as data acquisition. Then you move up to the data management level, which is a data manager. And from data manager, which, like I said, the roles are still similar to what Michelle mentioned. We don't deal so much with budgets. From the vendor standpoint, it's more of a PM's job to deal with the budgets. However, our management team does, lay out the budget for DM projects and work hours, metrics, stuff like that. Then you have from a data manager, then there's the lead DM, you have seniors, manager over, kind of like what Michelle said, manager over data management, operations manager. Yeah, so it's similar, just we have, like I said, more entry level positions.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Christy.
I'll just chime in as far as like the entry level. So I am a CDA 2, just came in 2 months ago. And basically what Michelle said, that's really what I handle is issuing queries. If there's something wrong with the data or, for instance, I'm in the database, I see they're issuing dosages of medications, and say for instance they have an AM and then they have a PM dosage, but the AM has 2200 in military time, so I know that does not match. So I issue a query to the site to say, hey, these time points are off. Do you mind looking at this data to reconcile? So that's a lot of what I do. It's just on the ground, just trying to get them to clean the data as quickly as possible on the front end, so that we don't have so much to do when the database locks. So just doing that. And as Michelle spoke on, vendor reconciliation, whenever vendor information is coming in, just making sure it's reconciled, SAE recons or SAE reconciliations. So just those basics is what I'm familiar with. As I said, I am new to it. So, and actually got put on as a lead over one of the studies. So just a little bit more than what a typical data entry level position would be, but yeah, so different levels at different companies.
That's impressive, Christy. Being the lead and you only been doing the position for 2 months, that must mean that you was doing it.
We'll speak on that later.
And then I actually like to point out one more thing I forgot. The programmers. Programmers are included. So system analysis is what we call it. That's our title, system analysis 1, 2, and 3. Obviously the lowest being the entry level. So if you're a programmer or you have a background in computer science, that would be entry level, would be systems analyst 1. So I left that out. I don't know. Yeah.
Sounds like we need to have a, I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said just from the programming aspect, because I know they kind of get left out. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm about to say, it sounds like we need to have like a data management chart and to give to people to kind of have, because it seems like there's a lot that falls under the umbrella for data management. And I know a lot of times people aren't sure, okay, which positions are entry level, which position can I, apply for, or which position is a mid-level. So I know a lot of times people want to know this when it comes to data management. How does a person enter in the field without data management experience?
Well, a lot of it really varies from company to company. Like for us, we'll require, when you see the job postings, it'll say bachelor's degree and 0 to 3 years of experience for an entry-level job. But we get people who are still undergraduates, so they have like no experience and they have no degree. I will make exceptions for people who maybe don't have a degree, but have a lot of experience. And it's really how they present, because you can look great on paper, but present really horribly. And then we won't hire you because we're looking for culture fit in the organization. So as long as you are an analytical person and you can show that you can problem solve, that you are not someone who cracks easily under pressure, you present well, you come across very confident, someone like me, a hiring manager like me, would be willing to give you a chance. Now, every place isn't like that. Some people are just looking at what you present to them on paper. So that's why it's important that your CV is kind of catered to what position you're applying for. So if you don't have any direct data management experience, but you have experience where you've had to use analysis or where you've had to do critical thinking, those are the kind of things that you need to really hype up on your resume so it doesn't get put to the side, so it actually makes it to the hiring manager. So take advantage of those BWICR resume services. Get your resume reviewed. If you don't have it in the right format, let them do it for you, because it really works. The presentation is everything.
Thank you, Michelle, for that plug. Yes, BWICR has a resume review services, and also with what you said, I'm pretty sure people want to know this. Is your company hiring? Could people?
We're actually about to open up some requisitions, because I have to hire like 20 people by the end of the year. So just keep an eye out for our website, www.healthdecisions.com. I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can go and look at the career section. So just keep your eyes out there, because we're going to post a limited number in US, and the rest will be like offshore. But this isn't one of the questions, but I want to tell you guys that there is a move now in the industry to move a lot of the entry-level positions offshore. So that could be India, that could be Eastern Europe, it could be Latin America, it could be Africa, because the labor is cheaper. In the US, what you pay one person, one CDA in the US, you could get 2 or 3 in Eastern Europe and Latin America and India. So
Wow.
a lot of the entry-level positions are being moved. So if you are currently in data management, it would behoove you to, get some extra skills so you can advance to the other levels, because we're not looking outside of US for the more senior levels. So if you can take some medical coding, go ahead, take that. It's $200 to take that exam. If you can get your CCDM, your certified clinical data manager, do that. It's $250 to take that exam. Do those things so you can advance in your career, and that's job security for you.
Okay. All right, Michelle, dropping those gems. I'm about to say it's very important, because I know a lot of times people are trying to figure out, do I need a certification? Do I not need a certification? Will a certification make me a more attractive candidate? So thank you very much for that. We can also drop those certificates that you said in the chat. I know that would be very helpful for some people. And so, Cherie, if you could tell me personally, how does one enter data management without data management experience?
I would say start within. So if you're already in a position at a CRO or whatever level you're at, reach out to someone in data management. See if there's a program where you can bridge. Maybe reach out if you have a friend in data management. Reach out to their friends. See if you can shadow them. And then obviously, like Michelle said, certifications. Look into free courses. Coursera has a really good data management course that's free, but if you want to get certified, it's $50. Coursera, LinkedIn Learning. There's several other different sites. ACDM, SCDM. Get to know those sites and get familiar with the information on those sites. CDISC. I know that's something that's kind of, you can kind of go on that site and look around just to get an idea, the actual data that we're looking at. That's another good spot to go. But yeah, kind of like what Michelle said, and then those.
Okay, Christy.
Yeah, I echo everything that, sorry, is there feedback? I echo everything that Cherie and Michelle said. And one thing too, you want to highlight your transferable skills. As Michelle said, you know, get your resume reviewed, because sometimes when you're in the middle of doing a job, you don't necessarily pick up on what you do on an everyday basis. But when you have that resume review, they can pick up on some things that maybe you didn't think about that you actually do. For instance, with me, I didn't think about what I did when I graduated with a BS in health information management from college. That was many career paths ago. But from there, I was a medical records manager for 3 years. I set up an entire medical records department, and they were like, the person that reviewed my resume was like, okay, you have major skills in documentation, regulatory, all of these things that you can use are transferable. In dentistry, I had to be an anticipatory thinker, meaning I had to think ahead. I had to be 2 steps ahead of the dentist at all times when I was an assistant. Those are things you need in data management. So again, you have to think, you know, what have I done? What can I contribute to this particular job? And as Cherie said, there are plenty of free courses out there. I will drop that Coursera link actually in the chat box so that you can go and do that. Invest in yourself. That $50 certificate, you can put it on your LinkedIn profile. Have those receipts. My motto is, if you stay ready, you do not have to get ready. When the opportunity presents itself, you're ready to say, hey, this is what I have. Also, there was a free course, it's called Data Sciences for All. Someone actually in the group had listed that information, and it's this initiative that they're trying to do. They're trying to get like over 10,000 people into data management. They're trying to diversify. So everybody is jumping on the diversity inclusion wagon. You better get on it while they are there. It's a very rigorous course. It's 13 weeks. It's 13 Saturdays, 8-hour course. It's very competitive. You know, you have to apply for it, but it's free. They find you a job upon completion. I will drop that link in there for you too. Just keep your eyes and ears peeled to these things. And by all means, do your research, you know, and never dismiss networking. That's how it happened for me. I reached inside of my network with my line manager. She then reached inside her network, and then her network had an extensive reach that reached all the way up to the VP of the data management department. I didn't know this woman, but my networked, and it worked for me. And that's how I got in. So that's my spiel on that.
I like that. Your networked, and it worked for you. That's good. Good information. I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to Rashida.
Thank you. This is really good information. I appreciate everyone being on here and really just giving as much of your background and information and, you know, skills for other people to kind of learn and do what they need to do to get where you guys are. So thank you for that. So I actually did a short stint in data management. So I've been in clinical research for about 11 years now. I started off at the site side, and then the way that I transitioned from the site side to the CRO side was through Aerotech. So I was a coordinator at the time, and I was presented with an opportunity to be contracted as a data manager. And I was like, I don't know what that means on the CRO side, but I do enter data, you know, as a coordinator. So I understand queries and how to read the data entry form for you to make sure you're doing everything you're supposed to do. So my question is, what, from my perspective, because I never moved up, I only stayed at the entry level, because I was done with the Excel spreadsheets. So from my experience, that's all I really remember was working with Excel spreadsheets and doing some of the testing for them building out some of those environments. So like, what is Christy, what is your experience when it comes to just kind of your day-to-day at that entry level role?
So yeah, just again, a lot of issuing queries, answering queries, data listing reviews. So whenever there is, if there is not a edit check that can be programmed into a system, then you basically get like a dump of data, sort of, that's programmed, and you look at this data listing, and then you go in and you issue queries based off of whatever data falls out. So it's working with a lot of spreadsheets. It's working with just that fine-tuned information, that tedious work, that is a part of that entry level, because you're covering that basis. That's a huge part of it. Yeah.
Thank you. And Michelle, on your level, what does your day-to-day life look like?
Oh, I was on mute. A hot mess. No, seriously. My day from like 8 to 8:30 in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I spend my entire day in meetings. So everybody sees my face all day long, and those could be financial meetings. We're thinking about how we're going to restructure the departmental budget, how we're going to issue task orders, process improvement, talking, sponsors down off the ledge when they feel that they've been ignored, talking staff off the ledge when somebody internal has maybe been mean to them, or they've been on a call with a sponsor that's not so nice, talking myself off the ledge because everybody's telling me that they're about to jump. So I don't, I'm not involved in day-to-day tasks. So, I'm not the person that's going to be answering queries, not unless it's a data crunch, like there's a DMSB, which is like a data management safety board that reviews the data in different intervals to make sure that the product is working as it's expected. Unless there's that, or like an interim analysis or final database lock where everybody gets their hands dirty. I don't do task-oriented work, but I do a lot of training because I believe that, our strongest resources are already at the company. So I believe in promoting from within. I have 2 employees now that I'm training up to be managers, because we're going to need like those 2 managers with this big hiring thing that we're going on. So I have them sit in on different calls so they can get a taste for what the managerial life is. All of my data managers are medical coders. So I've trained them on how to do the medical coding. We put it in their growth and development plan, and there's a $1,500 allowance each year for continuing education per person. So, we ask people, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be at this time next year? Do you want to stay in data management? If you do, what do you want to do? So, those are the types of things that we like to ask our people, because we want people to stay. We have people who've been at our company for 21 years. So, that doesn't really happen.
It does not in our industry.
Yeah. So, I mean, my day, no 2 days are the same, but it's always about putting out the biggest fire first.
Yes, prioritizing which house has the people in it that's burning.
Yes.
Oh, I love that you like to promote within your team. That is a key thing. And I think if more people would do that, more people would actually stay with companies if people showed that type of, interest in their progression. Sherry, what about you? What's your day-to-day like?
So my day-to-day is basically I'm collaborating, developing, maintaining, and study closeout activities. I'm collaborating with, obviously, since I'm speaking from a vendor level, I'm collaborating with other DMs from CROs, sponsor level, biostatisticians, stat teams, internal staff, other data managers, programmers, developers at some point. And in the development process, I'm creating DMP, DTSs, data transfer specifications, which are basically outlining everything that we're doing for a particular study, data-wise. In that one document, I'm basically creating edit checks, query guidelines, reviewing outside data transition or data transfer specs. So DTAs, DIAs, they have different names depending on the sponsor or CRO. Scheduling transfers, metrics, reviewing data sets, and then maintaining, basically, I'm doing a lot of reconciliation or meeting with, CRO or sponsor contacts. If they want to have like weekly or monthly meetings, I'm doing that. Basically, setting up transfers, like I said, meeting with study. Basically, when I meet with the study teams, sometimes we're discussing timelines. If timelines change, which I'm pretty sure everyone knows, timelines change. They never stay the same. Timelines, any risk that may be happening with the study that I need to know about, that would maybe cause us not to meet database lock. And then, like I said, study closeout. I am cleaning the data. We're getting the data cleaned, closing out queries, making sure there's no queries left so we can lock the database. And then, of course, I'm sending out the database approval form to the CRO sponsor contact. I'm locking the database once it's approved. And then just completing out any study archival activities. That's pretty much what my day consists of.
Wow, that's a lot, Terry.
It can be, yes.
So my follow-up to that is, since you have your hands in so many different things, is there like a standard load of study or protocols that you have, or does it change? Like, do you have mostly studies that are in closeout and then maybe a few in maintenance or startup? How does that work for you, Sherry?
Right now, it's just pretty much across the board. Like, I have studies in startup. Right now, I have quite a few studies in startup. I have a few maintenance studies and closed studies that are closing. So it's not really, it's kind of like across the board.
And then Christy, what about you? What does your typical workload look like as far as the amount of protocols you're working on?
Well, right now, I was blessed and fortunate to come in on a study that had like 4 sister protocols. So I work across those protocols, and it's 4 of those. But I mean, I know a senior CDA that has 8, 9 studies. So, it just kind of depends on your level of involvement, how good you are, how willing you are to pick up extra tasks. But it can vary a lot.
And then Michelle, same for you. What does your typical workload look like as far as protocols go?
So, I have that vicarious responsibility for all of the protocols that my staff are working on. So right now it's 18. So I have to have a working knowledge of all of those protocols. But what I try to do is I try to keep people in the same indication. So I have a project manager of data management that does only investigational device studies. So, like blood draws and the COVID tests and things like that. I have someone who only does contraceptive studies. I have someone who only does IVF studies. So and they have the same team, because if you keep it that way, people know exactly what their day is kind of going to look like. So if we've got 3 IVF studies, they're going to work on IVF and they're going to become those subject matter experts. And then it's going to be easier for them to, advance in that particular program. So I've set it up so they can be successful within the program. So you might be, a CDA 2 today, but in 6 months, you could be, a project manager of data management, because it's really all about what you're willing to put into it. But you have to set your boundaries, because a lot of times in the larger companies, if they see that you have that aptitude and you're hungry and you're willing to take on more, they will overload you. So you do have to set, you
You're hungry,
they
will feed you.
Yeah. So you do have to set your boundaries. And I usually try not to put people on more than 3 studies. And if it's oncology, really that oncology could be their only study, just depending on what phase it is. Because if it's like a large phase 3 that has like 2,500 patients, they can't work on anything else, because that's going to keep them, really busy, because they're enrolling at different times. And they're all over the place. So you have to be, you know, in like a department head position, you have to be really mindful of what you're putting on your staff, because you don't want people to burn out. Because people think I'm going to work longer hours, I'm going to get this done. But I'm like, no, it's going to be there tomorrow. The little Keebler elves are not going to come in and close any queries or do any vendor recon. It's going to be right there tomorrow. So log off, 4:45, start shutting down your computer, because there's no need for anybody to burn out like that. And our whole company operates like that. Most of the people on the clinical side, on Fridays, 2:30, 3 o'clock, out.
Okay, health decisions, guys. Health decisions sounds like a really good company.
But I'm telling you guys, we are in a hiring boom right now. We have acquired a company with CRAs. We're expanding into Europe. From now until the end of the year, there's like 12 studies that'll be starting up. So we're ramping up to just hire fast and furious. We've got to hire like 40 people in the next 30 days. So keep an eye out on the careers website, because we're hiring in-house CRAs, we're hiring traveling CRAs, we're hiring project managers, project directors, we're hiring in data management, we're hiring in biostats, all over the place. And we are very culturally diverse. So you will see people that look like you in those project director positions, in department head positions. You'll even see me on the website.
That is so important to see yourself. I love that you guys are actively being diverse, and it sounds like it's a really good, you know, working environment where you actually are thinking about the people who are doing the job. So that's amazing. So we did talk a little bit about some of the certifications that you can have and some of those transferable jobs that may work with data management. But what are some of those soft skills that you think you need to have as a data manager? I think some people may have an idea about data management where you are just in your computer all the time and you don't typically interact with a lot of people on a day-to-day basis. So can you, Christy, kind of explain what some of the soft skills you think are key in data management?
I think one of the keys, you have to be able to communicate effectively. Just because, you know, you're working with a vast amount of people, you're working with CRAs, you're working with sites. When you're issuing that query, you want to make sure that it's clear what you're asking for. You know, you're not giving them the answer, you're coaching them. So you have to have that coaching ability, not to piss a site off, as it were. You know, just being very mindful of how you are posing the question, and then just, you know, staying on top of it. You have to do those hard things that people don't want to do. They don't want to have to keep nagging people. You have to be that person, because you have to keep in your mind, this is for the sponsor. You know, it's not you can't take everything personal. That's definitely key, is communication with me. And you have to be an analytical thinker, like Michelle said. That's just part of it. You have to think outside the box.
Okay. And Sherry, what about you? What do you think are some really good soft skills that are key to working in data management?
Being detail oriented. Definitely paying attention to details. Pretty much in any area in clinical research, you definitely have to pay attention, but especially in data, because you might, you know, miss something. And when you're dealing with data, you don't really want to miss things. So definitely being detail oriented, I would say, be one of the soft skills, that you should want to have in the data management realm.
Yeah, I would agree. There was a point in time, I can't remember exactly what happened, but I was doing a spreadsheet, and you know how you copy your response and then put it in all the queries, and it was the wrong thing for me to query. So it was like hundreds of queries that I had to go back. I was like, This is not for me. This is I was like, they're gonna fire me. So Christy, I think it was you who talked about not getting sites upset. So what, or if any time, do you actually interact with sites as a data manager?
So, I mean, you don't, verbally, you're just communicating with them through the actual query, through the system, through the EDC. So even still, with that, they know that because when you query it, it says from data management to, site. So they know it's you, they just don't see you physically. But yeah, that's the interaction that I was speaking of whenever you're communicating through a query. Mm-hmm.
And then Michelle, as a more senior person in the role, do you have to interact with sites sometimes?
I'm not interacting with the sites. Mine is sponsor interaction. So you still have to have, the soft skills with communication. You have to communicate effectively. You have to be kind of everything to everybody. So you definitely can't internalize anything that the sponsor is saying to you. You have to have a spirit of collaboration. So you have to know how to sell things and make people think it's their idea. I do that a lot. So at the end of the day, my head is just like, because it's a lot of work. But like my more senior data managers, they do site contact because they do site training. So they train sites on how to use the EDC system, on the completion guidelines, how to navigate through the system. So if there's any issues, when the CRA is out at the site, they will contact that lead data manager and they'll get that technical piece resolved, whether it's liaising with our internal IT, if it's something with metadata, Oracle, or any of the other platforms that they have to kind of be the intercessor, for a moment of prayer, then they do that as well. So yeah, I mean, it's all about communication. And what you'll find is that you might have to soften up your delivery or be a little more personable than what you might be, because we look like this. So if we're communicating in a very direct manner, it might be, it's crazy, but it might be seen as aggressive or like you're angry. So you really have to be mindful, not only of the word choice, but it's really the tone. And if you're in video chats, you have to think about your face. It's just like if you're in a face-to-face conversation, you really have to, what my husband tells me all the time, fix your face, because I don't really see poker face. So if I hear something crazy, I might have to turn my camera off for a second, like, oh, excuse me, I got a cough, I got the asthma.
The asthma.
Anytime you put the in front of it, it's more serious. The pneumonia, the asthma. So I want to be a comedian when I give this lavish life of data management up, okay?
You're lightening the load.
Here.
So with that being said, Miss Michelle, as I like to call you, having to watch your body language, watch your tone, amongst other things, what would you say is the hardest or most challenging part about being a data manager throughout your career?
Really data management gets blamed when everything goes wrong with data. If there's any problem with the data, the finger gets pointed at data management. And that's not always by the sponsor. It's by your own team internally. Because I've been on calls like earlier in my career where the 18 wheels just rolled right on over me and my staff because of data issues that had nothing to do with us. It was something that the CRA missed when they did, like their visit at the site. They saw that it said that they had medical history, but then there was no medical history listed or something simple like that. So it's really being able to take critiques or criticism or not so nice commentary, really being able to take it but not absorb it, because those people will have you thinking that you're crazy. So always come prepared with all of your facts, get everything in writing. Don't do anything like on Teams or all these little communication chats and stuff. Put it in an email so that way you have everything in writing and you can present it. Well, no, we didn't do it because the CTL said, bam.
Yes.
Have your emails, documentation. There we go. It's important for yourself as well as for clinical research that you keep and document everything. Thank you,
If it's
Michelle.
not in
How?
writing, it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Christy? What's been the most challenging part so far? Because I know you said you're new to data management.
The most challenging part so far is just kind of trying to figure out my space. Can y'all hear me? I'm not sure, it's like a lag on my end. The most challenging part is just figuring out my space and how I fit into the department, and just coming in and finding that niche and finding a groove.
Thank you. How about you, Sherry? As a mid-level data manager, what would you say has been most challenging?
I would say, kind of to piggyback off of Michelle, like when I first came in, I learned that early that other departments definitely like to point the finger at data management. And from a vendor level, we work more so with not so much with therapeutic area, but more so modality. So like ECG, respiratory, imaging services. So a lot of the operations teams would always, have issues, or so to say, and they blame it on data management. That's just one of the challenges. But I think too, also the goalpost is always moving in data management, right? So everything is always changing. Nothing's the same. You'll come in one day is this way, the next day it's completely different. And I say that too with like from a standards point of view. So like CDIS standards, things change. Where we have to update our templates. Obviously, I'm sure Michelle could probably attest to this too. You have to constantly update your documents based off of the standards. So yeah, just the goalpost is always, moving. And even though Michelle spoke about having diversity within her company, I find that hard to find in a lot of data management spaces that I've, interacted with, and including mine. There's maybe like 3, including myself, Black women within the data management realm. So that's another challenge that I feel like I'm hoping changes, with the new industry inclusion and diversity. So yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do here, trying to change the
Right.
industry.
Yes.
So, what final advice would you have for someone trying to enter the data management career?
Me or anyone?
Yeah, sure, you can go.
Okay. So I would say training. If you're trying to enter into the data management realm and you have an interview lined up, ask about training programs. That's very important in data management. I think I read somewhere, I think it was a CDM certification book, basically said that there's no real training. And I'm like, really, am I reading this? There's like no real training within data management. I found that a little funny. So I would say definitely you want to ask about training, the culture. You want to know how you fit in to the data management realm, but just definitely training, culture. I'll say those.
How about you, Miss Michelle?
What was the question? I was answering questions in the chat.
Yeah, so it's what advice do you have for someone that's interested in being a data manager?
I would really just kind of echo what Sherry said. If you are getting ready to submit an application, make sure that you're highlighting your transferable skills. So for example, if you're a CRC, you already understand the protocols, you already understand data cleaning because you're just doing it from, the site end. So you know what the queries are, you know those things. So those are things that you can highlight in your little skills section. Ask about how long do you have to stay in the positions before you can advance, because those are important things, because some companies will make you stay in a position for at least a year. Other companies, like us, it's all about you. If you show that you have an aptitude, I'm going to push you forward. So those are the types of things that you should ask in like the interview. Ask about the culture, because that's important. Ask about the workload, because you don't want to go from bad to worse. You don't want to go into a situation where you're working like 50-hour weeks as the norm. You know, take advantage of like the website that I saw Christy put out there, just to give you some, you know, a little background about what clinical data management is. So when you do get that interview, you sound well versed. You
Yeah.
sound like it's something that you really want to pursue. So you've got to do your homework. You can't just, you know, randomly apply to something because it's entry level. You've got to really know how to sell yourself and your marketable skills.
Great. Thank you so much, ladies. Danielle, back to you.
All right, so we have a few, well, quite a few questions. I doubt we will be able to get to all of the questions today, but we can take a few of the questions. I'm just going to scroll through and see. I know some of the questions in the chat we have already answered, but please, please, please feel free to reach out to any of the speakers tonight if you want more information. If you're trying to get on Michelle's team, especially, go ahead. And I don't know, Michelle, if you want people to drop your name in as a referral, or
I don't get anything at my level. I don't get anything. But if you say that you heard me talk about it, that our hiring manager, who also looks like us, will be more apt to pay a little attention to what you're doing. Because so far from this group alone, we've hired 4 people.
Oh, wow.
Not
I didn't
in
know that.
management, but we've hired 4 people in clinical as in-house CRAs and traveling CRAs from this group.
Wow. Well, we probably need to talk and with your company and see what we can get a pipeline going. So, because I know it's so many members that want to get into the industry. And so let me see. So one of the questions here in the chat, how does being a clinical research coordinator transfer into being a clinical data manager?
Chemistry. I mean, you're already analytical, you're scientific, and you know that's what we're looking for. We're looking for critical thinkers. So, what you could highlight on your CV is something that something like you are like your teaching experience, or a time that you had to you know, explain a difficult process or something like that. Because we find ourselves, Sherry and Christy can tell you, we find ourselves saying the same thing over and over again. When new people come onto the team, you're constantly delivering training and you have to make sure, you know, that it's the same thing, that is consistent. So, you know, work with the resume services, with BWICR, so they can help you pull out those transferable skills. Because like I said, presentation is everything. We're looking, you know, for keywords. We're looking for like things that'll show us that you're analytical, that you're detail oriented, like Sherry said, because you do spend a lot of time reviewing. I mean, I saw Ebony Wall on here. She used to work with me way back in the day, so she can tell you that. And I see Rochelle, I see a lot of people that I know from back in the day, so they can tell you that, you know, all of those things are transferable.
Thank you. Let's see. I see that you ladies have done an awesome job with answering a lot of the questions in the chat. Let me see. I know some people were asking about the websites, but I believe we included the websites. Yep, we definitely included all of the websites here. Let me see. Yes, this recording will be on our YouTube channel after we are finished with tonight. Let's see.
Someone said they're not even looking for work, but they want to work with Michelle.
Right. Michelle sounds like fun, right? Like a cool, laid back manager, not someone that's about to micromanage you. As long as you do your work, hey, go ahead. I'm not mad at you.
I don't believe in looking over people's shoulders. You know, we're all over 18 years old. We know what we come in to do. You know, I'm very flexible. If you got kids, you gotta go to the doctor, because women gotta go to the doctor a lot. You know, you need to flex your time. Hey, that's cool with me. I'm not gonna give you any hassle, because if you're not doing what you need to do, it's all gonna come out in the wash. So I don't need to be Inspector Deck all over you.
How about say whatever's in the dark, it's going to be brought out into the light. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it with the questions. Yep, someone said that they are scheduling their second resume critique tomorrow. So even just throwing a little plug in there with your resume, and like Michelle said, having those keywords and having those buzzwords and those transferable skills. A lot of times, if you look at the position and you look at the position and you look at your current skills that you have, a lot of times you're able to pretty much draw out what skills that you have that apply to this position. And because I know a lot of times when we talk to the members that their skills are not always listed on their resume. So if you're talking to them, they're telling you, their background, and then you look at their resume, you're like, wait, that's not here on your resume. So, just really want to make sure that you bring your best foot forward, especially with putting the information on the resume, and don't leave out any experience, as far as it goes with the industry, or even just contact us, because we definitely know what experience you need in order to help you obtain these positions. And so, oh, Cherie also said that we host monthly DM Diva. I think that's a monthly DM Diva BWICR. Yes, they meet monthly. Next meeting is this coming Tuesday. So I think that's really it with the questions. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on Clinical Trials Day. This has been an amazing turnout. Thank you to Michelle, Cherie, Christy, my admins, Rashida and Drika. We really want to bring good content and good conversation when it comes to the clinical research industry. So if you're not aware of a career, or you want more topics to discuss, please, contact us, because, with today and everything we learned about, you have to be good with analyzing data to be in data management. You want to be detail oriented and being okay with criticism. I can't say that I have mastered that, that I am a work in progress when it comes with that, especially I'm like, wait a minute, what did you say to me? But, I am working on, being able to take criticism, but as long as, you're willing to work on your shortcomings, that's all that's important. And just make sure you bring your best self forward. And if you want to pursue data management, reach out to people that are holding the position that you would like, or reach out to people that are holding higher positions. Like, there's no problem with, and I'm sure Michelle is perfectly okay with you contacting her on LinkedIn, and Christy and Cherie, like, we want to help you. We don't want you to struggle with trying to get in. I think that's really when it comes down to creating Black women in clinical research. I never wanted, anyone that looks like me, any minority, to struggle with trying to get into this industry, to feel like they don't have those resources. So we have the resources. Just reach out. Don't be afraid. Shoot us your professional shot. We say that all the time. So thank you everyone so much for joining. I hope you have a great night, and happy Clinical Trials Day again.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good
Bye, everyone.
night.